I've never seen Israel the way I saw it on the day Shimon Peres died. The highways were deserted. Jerusalem was on a virtual lockdown as planes carrying foreign dignitaries arrived one after the other at Ben Gurion Airport from around the world. I was on one of 60 caravans of buses that left Tel Aviv for the funeral. My grandson, Yosef, who is studying in Jerusalem, sat behind me. Few words were spoken. Not far from us, a young lady was crying. On the bus, I saw many representatives of the kibbutzim. In the front sat two Hasidim, who later told me how Shimon Peres helped them start a synagogue in Tel Aviv. Another person on the bus echoed what would be said at that remarkable funeral, that this was the first day that the state of Israel was without Shimon Peres.
Shimon Peres's beginnings could not have been more modest. He was born in 1923 in Wishneva, now in Belarus, but then a part of Poland. Just a few streets, a Jewish religious school, the synagogue that he attended with his devoutly Orthodox grandfather. Another house now sits on the plot of land that was the site of the home where he was born. The train station is still there from where he, his mother, and his younger brother departed for Palestine in 1935 to join his father, who set up house in Tel Aviv there 3 years earlier. His maternal grandfather, Tzvi Meltzer, hugged him at the train station and beseeched him, "Never forget that you are a Jew." His beloved Zayda and the rest of his family who remained in Wishneva would be murdered by the Nazis 7 years later. The homeland he dreamt about in Wishneva, savoring the Jaffa oranges sent to the family by his father, was a poor country. There were food shortages and malaria. But he immediately took to Eretz Yisrael, becoming enthralled with everything he was seeing as a 13-year-old.
My father decided to give me a bike. And I thought I have to know everything new in Tel Aviv. So every day I took the bike. I went from house to house, from tree to tree, to see what's happening, what's going on in our kingdom.
Soon Peres was studying at one of the country's leading agricultural schools, where he would not only catch the attention of the leaders of the labor movement, but also meet Sonia, the girl who had become the love of his life and his wife of 66 years. As the years progressed, Shimon Peres helped to found a kibbutz in the Galilee, became even more involved in political organizing as the Jews in Palestine struggled against the British mandate and fought to create their own state. As Israel's War of Independence broke out in 1948, Peres was, by then, a trusted associate of David Ben-Gurion, who would become the country's first prime minister. Barely 25, he was put in charge of procuring armaments for the new state. When the war ended, a victorious Israel was almost broke, and with few, if any, resources to take care of its people, much less rearm for what was sure to be continued conflict with its Arab neighbors. But Shimon Peres looked beyond those realities and saw a future that no one else believed was possible at that time, an Israel with a defense capability that would be the envy of much of the world, a nuclear program, a high-tech industry and scientists making discoveries that would change the world. When he would discuss his visions of the future, many dismissed him as a dreamer, someone whose head was in the clouds.
About me, people said that I'm a dreamer. I was a dreamer. It's true, but ask me, what's wrong? Who said people don't dream are right? I never accepted things as they are. And then I never thought that what's important in life is to have a high rank or a known name. I thought, oh, I need it. So I thought the real problem in life is really not what to be, but what to do.
Through the 1950s and 60s, Shimon Peres helped to build Israel's security apparatus, securing arms from France and later Germany, when other countries, including the United States, refused to sell weapons to the Jewish state. In 1976, he was the mastermind behind the raid on Entebbe, which saved hundreds of Israelis being held hostage in Uganda after a terrorist plane hijacking. In the late 1970s and early 80s, he took part in negotiations with Egypt that laid the groundwork for the Camp David Accords. As prime minister in the 1980s, he forged a plan that stopped Israel's economy from collapsing. He also started talks with Jordan that would lead to a peace treaty with the Hashemite kingdom in the 1990s. And working with Yitzhak Rabin, he secretly negotiated what became the Oslo Accords, winning both men the Nobel Peace Prize. Shimon Peres was a firm believer of a strong Israel, and it was from that position of strength that he maintained that Israel could negotiate peaceful relations with the Palestinians and the rest of the Arab world. He also insisted that Israel's high-tech, science, and medical sectors, fields of which he was one of the earliest champions, would not only bolster the Jewish state's economy, but also help to foster peace throughout the Middle East. As a two-time prime minister, the head of almost every ministry in the Israeli government at one time or another, and the country's most respected and beloved president, Shimon Peres was not only immensely proud of what Israel had accomplished since its creation, he never stopped dreaming about its future.
Being optimist, being positive, using your imagination, never giving up, always look at the future, is part of the DNA of his vision. When things really looked like there's no way out, still he managed to forget the past, rise up again, and face tomorrow, always with optimism, always with a belief that there's no limit to what we can do and what we can achieve if we only dream and if we only imagine.
If you want to have innovation, namely things that were never done before, you don't have anybody to teach you. You have to dream. You have to imagine. You have to really to take risks, and don't be afraid.
When Shimon Peres died at the end of September at the age of 93, this dreamer, originally from a small town in Belarus that few, if any, had ever heard of, ended up being celebrated by heads of state, by royalty, and most importantly, the people of the country of which he was a founder. And until his last day, President Peres never forgot his grandfather's departing wish for him in 1935.
I think he would be very happy about one point. That are the last 2 words he told me before we went to Israel. I will remain a Jew. I think this would make him the happiest man on earth. Not my titles, not my achievements.
I think he never forgot to be Jewish. And I think not only that, he always reminded all of us what it means to be Jewish. So in his views about democracy and about Jewishness, I think that we have straight lines that will allow our train to move forward. I wish we had more people with those observations on those rails that will let our train ride to the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chemi Peres, the son of Shimon Peres. It is a great honor to present posthumously to your father, Shimon Peres, one of the great patriarchs of the State of Israel, the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Medal of Valor.
I'm a proud son of a great man, and allow me tonight to speak from my heart. First, I would like to thank Rabbi Heyer, and Larry Meisel, and Jeffrey Katzenberg for paying such a beautiful tribute to my father. Ever since my father passed away, I've been thinking about his legacy. And I'd like to share with you tonight some of the observations that I had. I feel that my father had 3 transformations in his life. The first one started in 1934, when he left home in Poland and transitioned himself to the Promised Land. He bid farewell to his grandfather, who told him, as you heard in the movie, "My son, never ever forget to stay Jewish." And that is the first pillar of my father's legacy that I take with me forward. Forever stay Jewish. The second transformation that my father went through was when he arrived to the state of Israel. It was pre-statehood days. Together with David Ben-Gurion, they started to build the state. And the lesson that I learned from him is always serve a cause that is greater than you. Initially populating the nation, creating great agriculture and know-how in water, technologies, building the defense industry, securing our economy through the digital economy, and seeking peace. As my father believed that for the first time in history, based on science and technology, nations can become great, not on the account of others. Before I go to the third transition in his life, I'd like to share with you a personal story. I came here especially for this evening. But before I left Israel, I went to my father's office. And I wanted to see what was the last book that my father read, because he read many, many books in his life. And I found the book. And the book is titled as Moses' Final Oration, the last speech of Moses. And soon, in a few days, all of us will be sitting in their homes with their families, telling the great story of the Israelite exodus from Egypt. From the Genesis book to the Deuteronomy book, the final book is actually the final speech of our great prophet Moses. And as I was reading through the book, I learned something about legacy. I learned something about the journey that the Jewish people had from an old world to a new world. When you look at Egypt, the country, the same country that Israel left, you look at the legacy of the old kings who really were serving themselves, building their legacy around pyramids, around stones, creating themselves as mummies, and creating dynasties in order to earn eternity. But when we will tell the story of the Exodus, somehow Moses will vanish within the story. And the last speech of Moses was actually the speech he gave to the people of Israel just before they entered the Promised Land. And he knew that he is not going with them. So he left him with his legacy. Create a nation, obey the law, be a nation, be a people. And when I thought about it, I learned that the Jewish legacy is not a legacy of stones, and it's not a legacy of dynasty. It is a legacy of vision, It is a legacy of values. It is a legacy of words of wisdoms. And that is how I will always remember my father. The last transition in his life was actually transitioning himself from yesterday to tomorrow. My father was made of materials of tomorrow. And he taught us, always dream, always imagine. Very few people dare to realize their dreams. Some even are afraid to dream. Some are afraid to realize their dreams because they might be disappointed. But just before my father passed away, he actually said, if there is one thing I regret, is when I look at the reality, what have we created in the state of Israel? Our dreams were not great enough. So the last lesson in his legacy is dream big. Don't be afraid to realize your dreams. And always, always dream great. Because in his view, there is no room for small dreams. Thank you very much.